Welcome to another con support video. This one's on solving two-step inequalities. Let's go. All right, so remember the only difference in an equation and an inequality in terms of solving it basically is if you multiply or divide by a negative across the inequality, you have to reverse the inequality. Otherwise, it's the same as solving an equation. So whatever you do to one side, you do the other, and you got to make sure that you maintain balance. And you got to make sure that you isolate the variable, right? So you get the variable term by itself, and then you want to get the variable by itself. And always simplify left and right side as much as you can first. Get all your variables to one side. All that stuff stays the same. So let's just go through this simple two-step inequalities. Not going to be complicated. Very simple, just two-step inequalities. Let's go through and zoom in here. All right, we're ready now. So number one, let's do it with black. Sweet. All right, number one says 8x plus 2 is greater than 34. Okay, so your goal is to get the variable term by itself, 8x by itself. So you got to peel away this plus 2. How do you undo plus 2? You minus 2 to both sides. You're going to get a 0 pair on the left. You show that by circling your 0 pair. Work down, you get 8x's on the left. It is now greater than what? 34 plus negative 2, which is 32. At this point, you're going to want to try to get the variable by itself. So how do you undo times by 8? Divide by 8. So you're going to divide both sides by 8. You're going to get 1x is now greater than 32 divided by 8, which is 4. So the answer is 8x is going to be all things greater than 4. So 5 would work, 10 would work, a million would work. So what are you going to write here? X is all things that are greater than 4. So greater than 4, and then enter. That's it. Let's do the next thing. All right, so we're going to go to the next one here. It says, which graph represents the solution set to this inequality? Okay, fair enough. Let's first figure out what the solution of the inequality is. So for number 2, we have 10c, and we're going to add 5 to that, and that is less than or equal to 45. Okay, so we want to get the 10c by itself. How do we get rid of this plus 5? You minus 5 to both sides. You're going to get a 0 pair on the left. You then end up with 10c's is less than or equal to 45 plus negative 5, which is, of course, 40. And then you want to undo times by 10, so we divide by 10 because we don't know what 10c's are worth, we want to know what 1c is worth. So we divide both sides of our inequality by 10, and then we get c is less than or equal to basically 40 divided by 10, which is 4. So this is our boundary point. Our solution starts at 4. It does have an equal line there, so it is including 4. 4 is part of the solution, and it's everything that is less than 4. So we're looking at everything that's less than 4 and including 4. So we're looking for a boundary point of 4. We want a solid dot because of the or equal to. So a solid dot at 4, but not going to the greater than side. We want to go into the less than side. So the correct answer is B. And that's it. All right, let's do the next one. So for the next one, you've got number 3 here. You've got 9 minus 4 times the quantity of d is greater than or equal to negative 3. Your goal is to get the 4d by itself, basically, right? So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we're going to do is get rid of this kind of plus 9, right? So how do you undo plus 9? Minus 9 to both sides. This becomes a 0 pair. And you get negative 4d is now greater than or equal to negative 3 plus negative 9, which is negative 12. Okay. Now at this point, you're going to want to solve for the variable d. So you got to get rid of this times by negative 4. And the way you undo times by negative 4 is you divide by negative 4. But guess what? You have to divide both sides of your inequality by a negative, right? Which means you're going to have to reverse that inequality, okay? So when you divide by a negative across an inequality, you've got to reverse the inequality. So negative 4 over negative 4 is positive 1. You get positive 1d. But this isn't going to be greater than or equal to. Now it's going to be less than or equal to. And what's negative 12 divided by negative 4? Positive 3. So what we really get here as a solution is that d is all things that are less than or equal to 3. So you want to be a solid filled in dot because of the equal to, because 3 is part of the solution. And then you want to go to the less than side. So this is wrong. Oh, this is right. So it's filled in dot going to the less than side. Yeah, that's the good one. Everything else is wrong. All right, awesome. And then we want to do the next problem. Okay, number 4, numero cuatro. Let's do number 4. Okay, so number 4 says, Oh, let me get rid of this highlighter and get into my pen. There we go, that's better. Sorry guys for these minor inconveniences. We get 52 minus the 3x's is less than negative 14. So we want to get this negative 3x term by itself. How do we get rid of plus 52 minus 52 to both sides? This is going to be a zero pair. And you get negative 3x's is less than the sum of negative 14 and negative 52, right? Well, negative plus a negative is more negative. We're going to get a negative result. And then 14 plus 52 is going to be 56 plus 10, which is going to be 66. So what you end up getting is negative 3x is less than negative 66. But now you don't want the value of negative 3x's. You want the value of only one positive x. So you're going to undo times by negative 3 by dividing by a negative 3. When you divide by a negative 3 across an inequality, you got to make sure you reverse the inequality. Remember, whenever you multiply or divide by a negative across the inequality, that's when you reverse the inequality. So this is going to be x is not less than, but x is greater than a negative 66 divided by a negative 3, which is a positive 22. So your final answer is that x is all things greater than 22. It can't be 22. That's not a solution. It's all things greater than 22. So 23, 24, 22 and a half, 22.5, 22 and 7 tenths, 22.1, 22.000000001. All these things will work, but guess what will not work? 22. 22 doesn't work. It's not a solution. So it's only things that are greater than 22. So what's your answer going to be? X is all things that are greater than 22. You are done. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's do the next one. All right, so now we're into our inequality here. Two-step inequality. 8x minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 72. All right, so numero 5. Here we go. 8x minus 8 is less than or equal to negative 72. Your goal is to get this 8x all by itself. So how do we get rid of minus 8? We add positive 8 to both sides. This becomes a zero pair. You are left with then 8x is less than or equal to the sum of negative 72 and positive 8. Who's going to win? Negative. By how much? Well, it's 72, take away 8. Take away the 2, you get to 70. Take away 6 more, you get to 64. So it's going to be negative 64. But now you want to undo this times by 8 because you don't want the value of 8x's. You want to do the value of 1x. So how do you undo times by 8? You divide by 8 both sides. Did you divide by a negative? No, you did not. So you leave everything exactly as it is. X is now less than or equal to negative 64 divided by 8, which is a negative 8. Even though you had a negative involved, you never multiplied or divided by a negative across the inequality. That negative was already there, right? So you didn't do that thing where it requires you to switch this inequality. You only switch it when you multiply or divide by a negative across the inequality. We didn't do that. So ultimately you get x as all values that are less than or equal to negative 8. So negative 8 is a solution that would work. You put a solid dot if you were graphing it. And it's all things that are less than negative 8. So negative 9, negative 10, negative a million, negative 8.1, negative 8.00000000000000001 would all work. Right? Anything that is less than or equal to negative 8. So less than or equal to negative 8 is your answer, and you're good to go. Now let's do the next one. Okay, the next one says 4x plus 11 is less than negative 21. So this is number 6, numero 6. So we get 4x plus 11 is less than negative 21. Your goal is to get the x all by itself. So you're going to get the 4x by itself to start. How do you get rid of this plus 11? You minus 11 to both sides. You're not dividing and multiplying by a negative, so this does not require you to switch anything. What is 11 minus 11? It's a zero pair. You're left with 4x's now is less than what? Negative 21 plus negative 11 is negative 32. And now you want to undo times by positive 4, so divide by positive 4, and you get x is less than negative 8. So ultimately on this problem here, you're going to get the value of x is anything that's less than negative 8 will work. So negative 8 does not work, but negative 9, negative 10, negative a million would work. So it's going to be an open circle at negative 8 and going to the less than side, to the left. So when we look at which one of these is the right one, it's open at negative 8 going to the left. That's why this is correct. Okay, and then we go to the last problem, which is negative 3b minus 15 is greater than negative 24. So let me kind of add a new page here. And you guys hopefully are getting to the point where you're like, oh, this one we're going to reverse the inequality, so it's going to go to the greater than side, right? Just by looking at it. But let's see what happens. So when we're solving this one here, you're going to say that for number 7, numero 7, I think it's siete, right? You got negative 3b minus 15 is greater than negative 24. Your goal is to get the negative 3b by itself. How do you undo minus 15? You're going to add 15 to both sides. You're going to get a zero pair on the left, and you get negative 24 plus positive 15. Negative wins by how much? 9. So you get negative 3b is greater than negative 9. But you don't want to know what negative 3b is worth. You want to know what 1b is worth. So you have to undo times by negative 3 by dividing by negative 3 both sides. And when you divide by a negative across an inequality, you have to remember to reverse the inequality. So you get positive 1b is not greater than, but less than the value of negative 9 divided by negative 3, which is positive 3. So you get the b is all things less than 3, which means you should have an open circle at 3 because 3 is not a solution. And everything that goes to the left of that, anything that's smaller, right? So 2, 1, 0, negative a million, all that should work. So open circle at 3 to the left, that's what you want, and there you go. And that's how you do your inequalities.